Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Sara Oblak Speicher, Dr. Bob Choat, and Atif Agha. And I want to talk about how do you get yourself to be consistent? Dr. Bob, kick us off.
Yeah, I think being consistent is taking those small steps. I think a lot of people look at like this big goal that they're going to go after and that kind of giant leap. It's really important that you focus on those small steps, as long as each one of those small steps challenge you just a tiny bit each and every day, so you have growth. Still keeping focus on that big goal, which is the big motivation.
I think you bring up a really important point. These are atomic habits, the small habits that make a difference. But I wanted to address this question in a little bit different way. I was thinking about it a lot, and I think all human beings are creatures of habits. It's really a matter of which habits do we really focus on. So I think it comes back to why, if we have the clarity on why we're doing what we're doing, it makes a big difference. Once you get your why right, and then it's a matter of consistency in terms of taking small steps and just continue to do it. Same thing with trust, right? We're consistent. When we consistently can be trusted, then we are trustworthy. We're not trustworthy just because one time we did something that was aligned with that. So I wanted to just kind of bring that up. I think small steps and knowing why we are making that change and just do it.
I love bringing together the external motivation with internal inspiration, because I think we need both. Otherwise, we find ourselves doing things consistently for all the wrong reasons. And what I'm referring here to is also a background as an athlete, right? There's an inspiration. You feel amazing. You love the game. But there comes a time at a certain level where there's also commitment to others and upholding of expectations. So whether it's an athletic career or a professional career, a lot of us have found ourselves grinding through it at one point and no longer. Yes, we have a grit, which I do feel is internal, and you're consistent, you're showing up every single day, you do the things. And then there's the grind that is just soul crushing, and you still do it every single day consistently. So I also love bringing the conversation down on the internal level of the mindset work, because we are very consistent in what we're thinking of. And if we take a look into the thoughts that we have every single day, probably a big portion of those are very negative, and they have been the same for many years. So there's a consistency there too.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I like to do to try and make myself consistent or help myself be consistent is create an external evidence of my consistency. So I've talked about it before here on Quick Hits, where I have a calendar up on my office, and there are certain things that I do every day as part of my business. And when I get done with them, I have a thumbs up stamp. That is, I use purple ink and I put a thumbs up on my calendar. And so I have a chain of consistency that says I have done this every day for X number of months. And psychologically, it makes it easy for me to do it because I don't want to break the chain. It sounds childish, but it's amazing how well it works.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. My best friend, Jason Scott Johnson, he's a former Muay Thai super heavyweight world champion like me. He was also in a Marine Corps, and he was also a K1 champion as well. And what he did back in those days was that he would journal. He would be so precise in his diet and in his fitness, his training, everything. Boom, 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 down to the T. And through that, he was able to stay consistent all the way to winning the world championship in Bangkok, Thailand. And
I would just joke about it a little bit, but some people are consistently failing and consistently just doing the wrong thing. And you're like, what is it going to take for you to learn? What are you doing wrong, right? So I think we have to be consistent in terms of learning and having that feedback. It's about consistently improving ourselves, whether it's one step every day more, whether it's taking into building small habits. So I think why is it very important, and then really comes down to how. It's different for everybody. Because somebody is motivated by the fact that I just did 100 times the same thing. The wall of China wasn't built it was just one break over another. It took so much, but it just they were consistent. So there's the whole thing about Simon Sinek talks about the infinite game, right? So it has to be an infinite game. Are you thinking long term, or are you just focused on the short term? So many people the new year make resolutions and always fail, right? It's just such a regular thing. But I think it's all about that. How you do it, what motivates that individual.
Which also brings me to a thought, oftentimes we are looking for things that feel good, and it's easier to do things that feel good. But then when you take a step back and you see the big picture, it's like, okay, does it feel good in a moment, or is it make me gonna feel good about myself in a long run? And that can be a disconnect sometimes, especially when you're building something new, when you're developing new habits, when you're going out in uncharted territory. It's challenging, and you want to quit, and you want to stay comfortable and playing small, and whatever old habits are still kicking in, because the new ones are just so uncomfortable. They're out of your comfort zone. It hurts sometimes, but that's where it really comes down to perhaps finding a support system. You can't always do it on your own, no matter how hard you try, no matter how gritty you are. At some point, you just need support system.
So two key things in the mix, right? One is willpower. So people who are committed to what they want to do make change in the end. And then also a certain bit of obsession too. When you're obsessive with in terms of, I'm going to make this happen, I'm just going to do it. And wherever I am, I'm going to continue to do better. I think that's where it comes down to.
When does obsession become toxic?
Well, and the interesting thing about willpower is you only have so much, right? And if you can overuse it and then you run out. So if you're doing something on willpower, you better not have anything else that goes wrong in your day. No one better cut you off in traffic or anything, because you're going to run out of willpower. No distractions. Exactly. So I think what we're saying is you have to make the decision that you want to do it. But then, Sara, I love your point about accountability. Who are you accountable to? Because just accountable to yourself might not be good enough.
Correct.
Myself, I fell off the wagon many times, more than I can to admit. And it's not what my usual self would like to even acknowledge. But when it comes to dieting, when it comes to keeping up with exercise after so many years of rigid workout, I needed a break, but then it became too comfortable to slow down, and it's hard to get started. So I'm going to be first to admit that, I also struggle with being consistent in certain areas.
So let me pose this question, both that Sara and Dr. Robyn brought up, especially and also Atif, regarding willpower, because again, we do have a finite amount of willpower, and that's been shown. That's been shown in studies. What is your most effective time of the day? Because I believe that's when you can be the most consistent. Especially when you go later in the day, your brain gets more foggy, and you stop really thinking as much. You just don't want to do anything. So what is your most effective time of the day, whether it's for working out, whether it's for learning something new, or working on a project?
For me, first thing in the morning. I know the important things, the things I absolutely want to get done first thing in the morning. And once I use those couple of hours up, do I get more things done? Yes, but those first few hours are crucial to my success.
Yeah. And I know being a parent is not always easy when you have little ones, and first thing in the morning, how early can you get up? Because at a certain point, everybody's going to get up. They will need you to take them to school, to get the lunches ready and everything else there too. So it also comes down to prioritizing, order of priorities, and just saying no to certain things, and being okay sometimes with things not being perfect, but at least you're getting them done little by little.
Yeah, I think for me, it's also early morning, but it's before sunrise. Yeah. Just 20 minutes or 15 minutes, a little bit of meditation, and also just focusing on my day or what I want to be or what I want to do, immensely help. So that's really, I think, whenever I miss that, I just feel like my day is not going well.
Yes.
Well, that is our 10 minutes, so I'm going to cut us off there. Thank you so much for having this conversation about consistency with me. I appreciate each of you have your own methods, and I knew because you were all former athletes or current athletes that it would be a great conversation. So thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to each of you again very soon.